Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Ari. On this episode, another one in the Law of One series, this one titled The Necessity and the Near-Hopelessness of Attempting to Teach. And I'm going to be analyzing a quote by Ra in this text about understanding, about teaching and learning. And this is a very interesting quote that we can honestly say a lot about and learn a lot from. So the quote is this from The Law of One, Book 1, page 68. Group-Individuated Consciousness is that state of sharing understanding with the other distortions of mind-body-spirit complexes, which are within the evident reach of the mind-body-spirit complex individual or group. Thus, we are speaking to you and accepting both our distortions and your own in order to enunciate the laws of creation, more especially the law of one. We are not available to many of your peoples, for this is not an easily understood way of communication or type of philosophy. However, our very being is hopefully a poignant example of both the necessity and the near hopelessness of attempting to teach. And that is just a fascinating quote. I think this is really going to help me in my teaching and my learning journey, and I hope it is for anybody else who is trying to teach or learn anything. So the first part of this quote, when Ra talks about quote-unquote group-individuated consciousness, I take that to mean that basically we're all one, we're in this group, the human race, or even the earth as a whole, yet we believe to be separate. We have different quote-unquote distortions that make us think that we're different, like our outward appearance, such as hair color, skin color, height, weight, and then our inner world, our things that make us unique, our thoughts, our beliefs, our dreams, our emotions, our attitudes, our perspective and point of view on life. And one thing to note is that Ra uses the phrase mind-body-spirit complex to talk about humans. I think that's fascinating in itself, as it kind of shows that trinity that we are made up of the mind, body, and spirit, but some people just won't actually believe that. And another important takeaway in this is that we need to understand what distortions there are when you are teaching and learning some type of information. What type of distortions are there? What is impeding you from talking to another person? It could be language. It could be your life experiences that they don't understand the point of view that you are coming from. So it's extremely important to know who you're talking to, know the message that you're trying to get across, and understand what words, what symbols, what signs will work and what they won't. And this is extremely important when teaching or learning the law of one, because in oneness there is no distortion, but distortion is what we know here. We don't know unity, because if we knew unity, we would not be here right now. And this information, this law of one information, is not readily available to the majority of the population. Not many people have access to these books. Not many people have even heard about the law of one books. I actually came about these books. I used to watch Aaron Dowdy, his channel on YouTube, and he talked about these books, and I was like, wow, this sounds amazing, and I bought them. Not everybody even has the ability to access these texts for free online, as not everybody actually has the internet. So that's one reason why a lot of people haven't come into contact with this information. But a deeper reason that people don't get the most out of this law of one information is that out of the small percentage of people who actually do read this raw material, the law of one books, most people will not understand it at all, because it is very confusing. It's dense. It's deep. It may take multiple readings to understand, and that's another reason why I'm doing this series, to continue to deepen my learning and understanding. Because I think that, and I know that, if you want to keep learning, you will always be able to keep learning. You will always be able to keep having a deeper and deeper and deeper understanding, and that's what makes a book like this and information like this so fulfilling. And the last sentence of this quote really gets to me. That's why I titled this podcast episode, The Necessity and the Near Hopelessness of Attempting to Teach. Quote unquote, our very being is hopefully a poignant example of both the necessity and the near hopelessness of attempting to teach. It's important to teach and learn, but you can't do the teaching for someone else. Or no, you can do the teaching, but you can't do the learning. Ultimately, you can teach somebody else, but it's kind of paradoxical that even though you're the one teaching them, they actually have to be teaching themselves, because you can't learn for them. Ra can tell us this information. It can tell us about the law of one, but we have our own biases. We have our own distortions. We need to be able to understand our distortions, understand our biases, our blind spots, our weak points better, so we can start to pierce through these illusions and start to see truth. And this quote, this episode, is very important whenever you are teaching or learning, or teaching and learning. As Ross says, that there is not much distinction between teaching and learning, which makes sense. There's a great necessity to teaching, there's a great necessity to learning. We all need to be learning and all need to be evolving, yet there's a near hopelessness to it, because if you're trying to teach something to somebody else, you can't force them to learn it. They need to actually have the desire to want to learn it, the desire to put in the work, to put in the effort, to put in the studying, to put in the practice and the implementation, and to be able to make mistakes and learn from them and be okay from that. And it really shows that life is extremely paradoxical. You'll continue to see this paradoxical nature if you look for it, but you'll also be able to see this as we go through more of the law of one raw material. You'll see the necessity and the near hopelessness of attempting to teach, especially a topic as huge as the law of one, a topic as life-changing and paradigm-shifting as the law of one.